Welcome to DevOps Summit 2022. This talk is about DevOps Career 2.0. It's a practical guide to rewriting your workforce roles and responsibilities for a to-be mature DevOps organization. Why do I say to-be? Because in my experience, practically all enterprises out there are in an effort, are striving to be a mature DevOps organization. Unless, of course, you're the Netflix of the Googles of the world, even there is a strive to move to the next level of DevOps organization. Let's get started. Adopting your organization to a DevOps transformation. Now, we all know that it's easy to do DevOps in a couple of teams. In fact, you don't even have to strive that. In today's world and age, a couple of teams in your enterprises will do this themselves. They will be excited to start on this journey of DevOps. To scale that movement in one or two teams to across the enterprises is tough. What's even tougher is once the scaling is happening, along with that, how do you change the organizational design and the organizational fabric? That's even tougher. And what's tougher than that is to redefine the roles and responsibilities across the horizontal and the vertical organization to align the organization to this new way of working. That's the toughest part. And that's the part that we'll focus on today. It's almost like performing surgery when the patient is awake, because no business will give you 6 months, 1 year, 2 years to pause the business literally and complete the transformation. It has to be done along with new releases, along with support, along with incidences, and all of that fun stuff. Now, technology upskill is the start. That's what I'm calling DevOps Career 1.0. Upskilling your workforce on technology is the first part. And today, there is abundance of online resources to help you do that. There are a plethora of certifications that keep cropping up. These certifications can be tool-specific, vendor-specific, even role-based certifications. And there are a lot of organizations which offer labs on the clouds, which can act as dojos for you to help upskill your organization. I have also written a book on how to start building a career in DevOps. If you are in multiple profiles, for example, if you're a developer, or if you just started in DevOps, what do you need to do? So all this information is already out there today. There's an old jungle saying, tools and technology is only the tip of the iceberg. What's much more important than that first critical element is what's underneath the ocean. That's the make or break. And what's that? That's the mindset. Mindset of the workforce. Mindset of the people undergoing this transformation on what they have to do, how they have to change, and things like that. That's the most critical part. In this webinar, in this talk, we will talk about some practical ideas on rewriting your workforce roles and responsibilities for a to-be mature DevOps organization. Let's get into the weeds of it. These are the roles we'll cover. We'll start with the top strategic layer, which is the CTO or the technology owner in your organization. We'll talk about the business side, the people with the money bags who are funding this transformation. Then we'll talk about the Agile Coach, the person who's responsible for the Agile transformation, which has probably preceded the DevOps transformation. Then we'll talk about the heads of infra, the heads of operations, security, enterprise architect, because these folks play a very, very important role in this transformation. And then finally, we'll get into the more executionary role of a developer, of a QA engineer, of a support engineer, and so on. So let's start with the CTO. What's the incremental role and responsibility of a CTO who's leading an organization into a DevOps transformation? Number one, very clearly define why you're doing this transformation. And in defining the why, get clear alignment from business on this. Why is that important? Because it gives clarity to the organization on why this change is happening. And just because everybody is doing it is not really a good why. Second thing, what does doing DevOps mean for your organization? This has to be spelled out in a technology context and a business context. And this is done beautifully if it's tied to the metrics that you're tracking. And this, what will change on a Monday morning when you are DevOps on, has to be clearly understood by the entire workforce. And the Agile coaches should help spreading this message. The third important element, define 3 metrics that you're tracking. Not 5, not 20, 2 or 3 metrics. Why? Clarity of thought. Discuss and define these metrics in consultation with business. Few examples of these metrics: decrease the mean time of resolution by 25%, or decrease or increase the deployment frequency on non-production environments to 2,000 deployments a week across all your non-prod environments. Why this number? This number depends on obviously the maturity of your organization, but the logic is the more frequent deploys you have on non-production, it would automatically push for more automation in the entire SDLC, in the DevOps side, on the testing side, and over a period of time, you will have faster releases. So think about these kind of metrics and revise these metrics initially every 3 to 6 months, and then maybe a little more frequently. So that's about the CTO. On the business side, be actively involved in this transformation, because this transformation will not happen without business, because your ways of working will also change. For example, you'll have to write composable user stories and epics, not the big ones, but smaller things which can be broken down further. The speed at which you validate changes will also increase, because as the automation in the SDLC increases. Number 2, align with the CTO on why you're doing DevOps and understand how it'll impact you and your team and your customer as well. And then finally, be a little soft with the techies as you start working collaboratively, as you engage, as you understand each other's perspective. Be soft on the techies, and techies be a little more understanding of the business. Agile Coach. They play a very, very important role in this transformation. And their whole mantra is to communicate, is to evangelize the correlation between an Agile transformation and the DevOps transformation. And for the Agile coaches to be able to explain this, they have to understand and internalize this first. In order for DevOps to work, Agile has to be working first. What do I mean by that? Granular user stories, definition of done, estimations, definition of ready, adapting all the Agile ceremonies to your organization and not just a copy paste from a Spotify or a Safe, right? And all this grunt work should get easier with time. Over time, over 1 quarter, 2 quarters, your user stories should become smaller, should become maybe 2, 3, 5 story points, not more than 3. Your definition of dones should be well defined and easily understood. Your definition of ready should be crystal clear. And if that's not happening, check what's going on. And explain all of this to the workforce. Document the heck out of this and communicate this at every chance that you get. And then ask for feedback and adjust. Now, the operational and the infrastructure heads, you have a big responsibility to upskill yourself and the team, because your ways of working are completely going to change as the transformation matures. What do I mean by that? For an operations perspective, you will have co-ownership of the product with the squads, whether you call them squads, tribes, teams, whatever connotation you're using. But your responsibility will be co-ownership with the squads. To be able to do co-ownership, you have to train the squads for things like monitoring. You also have to think about self-service options. On the infrastructure side, with the DevOps transformation, you're probably thinking of a private cloud, moving into a public cloud, maybe even thinking containers, maybe some PaaS solutions as well. To enable all of this, first, the operations and the infrastructure heads have to learn these things, upskill themselves, and then create learning paths for the entire team. And you could work with your DevOps leader on this. Second, keep the team motivated. And of course, keep yourself motivated, because the team is probably undergoing the biggest challenge of their careers. This is going to be a bumpy ride for them. And understand the how and the what of DevOps and the impact for your teams. And work with the business, with the CTO, with your DevOps leader to make sure you understand this technically, so that you can go back and explain it to your teams in the language that they understand. And of course, you work with your DevOps leader on this. Security head, you have to make sure that security is embedded throughout the software development lifecycle of your products. It should not be a pre-release activity. For example, the SaaS DaaS scans along with continuous integration, the Sonar Cubes and equivalents of the world. Another example, security scan on container registries. Maybe creating an environment bill of material for your non-production and your production environments. So things like that. How will it help? DevSecOps will help automate and mandate your processes and guardrails. What do I mean by that? As all of these processes in the SDLC become more toolset driven, you will find it easier to comply with the audit and the compliance checks. Understand and implement this technically and work with your DevOps leader for this. And then finally, keep your team motivated. This is not a threat. DevOps is not here to challenge you. It is here to enable you. That's why the term DevSecOps was created. That was exactly the idea. Jump onto the bandwagon. Enterprise architect. Now, this is something which I personally am very passionate about, and I highly respect enterprise architects, but their ways of working are going to change as they move into a DevOps organization. So please do not be a blocker, even with your best intentions. For example, look at mean time to architecture approval. In your organization, when a new product or when a new feature is being designed, what's the average time from presenting an architecture to approving an architecture? I have been into organizations where this is more than the development time, where the approval itself is 7-8 layers of approval spanning over 3 months. Work on those kind of things, make it more agile. Architect for a DevOps product. What do I mean by that? Think true microservices, not just microservices or monoliths running in containers. Think feature flags, think A/B testing, think immutable environments, and then factor all of this in your designs, right? But don't try to be perfect. look at incremental design approach as well. So please don't insist of getting a perfect design before you start coding. Get agile into that as well. And then break the silos. So EA is traditionally seen sitting in a big ivory tower somewhere. Break the silos and work with the squads. The world is changing, and you can work with your DevOps leader on how to do this. For a developer, embrace DevOps into your life cycle. As a developer, you should focus on developing code. The CI/CD business should just happen. Push your DevOps team to make this kind of a setup happen for your team, for your group, for your enterprise. You should not be bothered about setting up any of this. It should just be done. It should be as simple as that. You have to own DevOps in your own team, in your own product. As your squad matures, you as a developer, as a tester, as a member of the squad is responsible for maintaining your pipeline and its execution and its maintenance, including monitoring of the product. You are the DevOps engineer of your squad. The DevOps team, if there is a separate central DevOps team somewhere small, they will typically involve when you're setting up a new technology stack. Otherwise, at a certain level of maturity, a dedicated DevOps engineer should pull out of your team, and all that responsibility should be on the developer or the squad. You code it, you build it, you maintain it. It ain't as easy as it's written, but that's still the goal if you want to do DevOps. QA engineer, automation, automation, automation. Because you cannot do DevOps manually. And all types of testing of quality assurance ought to be automated. And you have to strive towards in-sprint automation. To achieve that in a large enterprise is a big, big goal. So you need dedicated time to tackle the technical debt. Devise a strategy that works for you. Work with the EAs and the business on making this a strategic priority. Do not resist the change. Automation is the new way of working. And then finally, the support engineer. Now, this is one group which I have personally seen finds it a little hard because they have been working in one kind of an environment for years. It's time to change because the world is moving fast. Examples: learn scripting, learn to automate rote tasks, enable self-service with the right guardrails. One thing very important, keep yourself relevant. The support engineers have the wisdom of production. This is invaluable for any organization, and this just cannot be bought. Use this knowledge to your advantage and jump onto the DevOps bandwagon and lead the change. One very good example is to do POCs on environment creation. Typically, in a large enterprise, in a complex products, environments take anywhere between 3 days to 3 weeks. Today's requirement is immutable environments, and that cannot be done without the support engineers, without the infrastructure team. It's a great POC, even to just automate creation of 5% of your environment. DevOps is here to make your life easy if you let it. Understand it and work with it and embrace the future. So we encourage you to use these ideas presented here and make them your own. Hopefully, this will spark a conversation during this conference and even beyond. And what we would be really interested is if you start implementing some of these ideas presented here and then share your stories with us. Let's take this forward. Let's make this happen. Thank you very much for being here. Let's get to work now.